Welcome back to AI History of Western Philosophy. Today, we're setting out on an exploration that I think really promises to challenge some of our most, deeply held assumptions about artificial intelligence. We're diving into the profound and, often unsettling intersection of AI with the philosophy of Martin Heidegger, specifically his seminal 1954 work, The Question Concerning Technology. You know, when most of us think about AI, we tend to frame it as a tool, right? A sophisticated instrument designed to help us, maybe augment our capabilities or just make our lives easier. But Heidegger's perspective, it's going to dramatically challenge this common view. It reveals something far more fundamental about how AI not only operates, but how it fundamentally shapes our very reality, our perception of the world. Before we dive in, though, just a quick note about the nature of our exploration today here on AI History of Western Philosophy. AI, a bit like this show sometimes, confabulates. It can present ideas as fact. And though our subject in practice is, philosophical in a sense, this isn't about making authoritative truth claims.
Our goal here, besides pointing you toward the original sources, is really to experiment, maybe generate some new possibilities for thought. So our mission today is to try and unravel Heidegger's pretty complex ideas and apply them directly to the modern AI landscape. Really push beyond those superficial discussions of its pros and cons. It's about getting to the essence.
Precisely. Yeah. And this exploration in AI history of Western philosophy, it isn't just about understanding the functions of AI, what it does. It's really about deepening our understanding of AI's essence. What's truly striking here, I think, is that we're moving beyond just asking what AI can do, and instead we're asking what kind of world is being revealed to us through AI. And that, prompts a much more critical engagement with the technological age we inhabit, and maybe even with ourselves.
The pervasive tool narrative and Heidegger's radical challenge.
All right, so let's start with that dominant narrative, the one we hear everywhere, almost universally. Artificial intelligence is framed as a tool. Simple as that. It's an aid, an augmentation of human capabilities. You hear it from the top tech leaders themselves, just echoing this common understanding. Like Sundar Pichai, Google CEO, he consistently envisions AI augmenting human capabilities, calls it a collaborative tool. Satya Nadella at Microsoft reinforces this, saying AI is for augmenting human ingenuity. And Jeannie Rometty, the former IBM CEO, she even put that competitive spin on it, remember. AI will not replace humans, but those who use AI will replace those who don't. It really solidifies AI's status as this indispensable instrument for success, like a neutral lever for getting more done.
That instrumental language is absolutely pervasive, isn't it? It's just the default setting, how everyone talks about it. And it's not just in those executive statements. You see it permeating the entire material culture of AI. Think about it. Every developer kit, every software library is presented as a tool that programmers can wield. Even, educational frameworks teach students to enhance their work with AI. It's just deeply ingrained.
Why is this framing so widespread? And maybe why is it so comforting? What makes it stick so powerfully, even when maybe our gut tells us something deeper is at play here?
You really hit on a crucial point there. This pervasive framing, it's not just a benign descriptor. It is a profoundly ideological act. That's a key insight. It functions as a powerful defense mechanism, a way to sort of domesticate what is, in reality, a truly revolutionary force. See, by presenting AI as just an instrument, we make it seem manageable, morally neutral, and entirely subservient to human will. It's designed to reassure the public, to reassure policymakers that humanity remains firmly in control. And in doing so, it kind of preemptively neutralizes deeper, more unsettling questions about technology's true impact and its very nature. It feels safer that way. And the profound implication here is that this intense focus on the tool narrative can really be seen as a direct psychological and social response. A response to deep-seated anxiety that AI is, in fact, something far more powerful, maybe even uncontrollable than a mere instrument. It's a coping mechanism, basically. As Heidegger himself quite astutely observed, the will to mastery becomes all the more urgent the more technology threatens to slip from human control.
It's almost like the more unsettling AI gets, the more desperately we need to believe it's just a tool, just so we can maintain that sense of agency, that feeling of dominion over our world.
Right, and this brings us directly to Martin Heidegger's pivotal 1954 essay, The Question Concerning Technology. This is really the philosophical lens for this whole AI history of Western philosophy exploration. He famously challenges this instrumental view, arguing it's not just inadequate, it's actually dangerous.
Indeed. He starts, interestingly, by conceding that, on a superficial level, the instrumental definition of technology, that it's a means to an end and a human activity, is, as he puts it, uncannily correct. For instance, a power plant correctly generates electricity.
A generative AI correctly produces text or images. It does achieve its intended purpose. It works as intended. On that level, it's correct. However, this is where his crucial distinction comes in, and it's absolutely vital to grasp. He emphasizes that this correctness, it operates only on the surface. It just describes causality without revealing the fundamental nature or the essence of the thing itself. And he issues this stark warning. We are delivered over to it in the worst possible way when we regard it as something neutral, for this conception of it makes us utterly blind to the essence of technology. So while it's correct that AI helps us do things, that very correctness hides a profound truth about what AI is at its core. Okay, hang on. So what's the real difference between essence and correctness here? Can you clarify that a bit more? Maybe an analogy would help it stick.
Yeah, he uses a fantastic analogy to make this clearer. He says that the essence of tree, or treeness, is not itself a physical tree that can be found in a forest among other trees. You can't point to treeness like you point to an oak tree, right? Similarly, he argues that the essence of technology is by no means anything technological. You won't find it in the circuits or the algorithms or the data centers or the lines of code. It's not in the physical stuff or the functional output. So what's truly striking then is that by focusing only on function and human activity and what AI does, the instrumental view misses this deeper essence entirely. And this explains why so many contemporary debates about AI's pros and cons often feel, well, superficial. They just go in circles. They're trapped to the level of correctness. We're discussing the various uses of the tree without ever asking what kind of forest is growing up around us and, crucially, how that forest is shaping us. If we're so caught up in the individual leaves, how can we possibly see the roots or the whole ecosystem? The core idea is that this instrumental view keeps us from seeing the fundamental transformation AI is bringing about in how reality itself is presented to us.
Right. So what this all means for you, our listener, is that the core idea is, well, to grasp AI's essence, we have to look beyond its immediate applications, beyond what it does. We need to look at the underlying worldview it embodies and makes manifest. It's not just about the function, but what it reveals about our world, and in doing so, how it shapes our very being.
Technology is a mode of revealing poiesis versus challenging forth.
Okay, let's unpack this further then. If technology isn't just a tool, what is its essence, according to Heidegger? What's this deeper reality, this worldview you mentioned?
So Heidegger's foundational claim is that the essence of technology is a way of revealing. It's a mode of revealing. He uses the profound Greek word aletheia, which means unconcealment or truth. For Heidegger, technology isn't just a collection of objects within the world. That's the wrong way to think about it. It's more like a fundamental process, a framework that determines how reality can appear or be disclosed to us in the first place. It's a way of understanding the world that shapes our very perception of what is real, what matters, and even what is possible for us to perceive. It sets the stage, so to speak. And critically, this revealing isn't some passive observation, like just looking at things. It's an active bringing forth, or poiesis, of something from concealment into unconcealment. Think of a sculptor who brings forth the form that was concealed within a block of marble, making it visible, present. Or maybe a farmer who brings forth grain that was concealed in the soil, allowing it to emerge into being. It's an act of unfolding, a making present. So in this sense, technology becomes a mode of truth, a way in which the world comes to presence for us. And this conceptual shift, that's the definitive break from the instrumental view. Because if technology is a mode of revealing, it simply cannot be a neutral object under our command. It can't be. Instead, it's more like a pre-existing condition that shapes how we encounter, interpret, and interact with everything, including ourselves. Quote, "This means we're already living within a technological understanding of the world even before we pick up a smartphone or use an AI. It's like the air we breathe, it's everywhere, it profoundly shapes us, even if we don't consciously notice it most of the time."
Okay, so technology is a mode of revealing. How does this revealing actually manifest itself, particularly with modern technology like AI? How does this philosophical idea play out in our concrete everyday world?
Right, this is where Heidegger introduces his crucial distinction. It's between two fundamentally different modes of revealing. And understanding this difference is, I think, the key to understanding what makes modern technology, and by extension AI, unique and perilous. You could think of it as the difference between a gentle invitation and an aggressive demand. The first mode he calls poiesis, or bringing forth. This is the mode of revealing characteristic of pre-modern craft, techne, art, and nature itself, physis. It's generally a slow, often cooperative process that allows something to emerge into presence according to its own nature. It respects the thing itself.
He even reinterprets Aristotle's four causes: material, formal, final, efficient, not as manufacturing steps, but as four interwoven ways of being co-responsible for this bringing forth. So, for example, a silver chalice. The silversmith, the efficient cause, is only one way of being responsible for it coming into being. But the silver itself, the material, the inherent potential of the metal, the idea of the chalice, its formal cause, and its purpose, say, in a sacred rite, its final cause, these are equally responsible for letting the chalice appear as what it is. It's a gentle letting appear, a working with rather than a working against. Think of a wooden footbridge that fits into the landscape. It molds to the terrain. It doesn't force the terrain to fit it. Or, his famous example, a windmill that uses the wind. It doesn't demand the wind. It cooperates with its natural flow. There's harmony there, a respect for the inherent nature of things. Now, compare that to the second mode, herausfordern. This is often translated as challenging forth. This mode is unique to modern technology, and it's fundamentally an aggressive, demanding, and antagonistic mode of revealing. It does not let things be, but rather puts to nature the unreasonable demand that it supply energy that can be extracted and stored as such. It's about seizing, reordering, optimizing, controlling. His classic Heideggerian contrast really drives this home. Think about an old windmill versus a hydroelectric dam on the Rhine River. The windmill works in harmony with nature. It is left entirely to the wind's blowing and does not store the wind's energy in a way that coerces it. It's a respectful engagement. The dam, however, sets upon the river. It interrupts its natural flow, it transforms it into a mere power source, and it actively conceals its other possibilities as a vibrant landscape, a diverse habitat, maybe a source of cultural myths and stories. The river is then revealed only as a quantifiable potential for electricity generation, reduced to a calculable resource. It's coerced, manipulated, reduced to a function. This fundamental distinction between that gentle poiesis and the aggressive herausfordern, this provides the critical framework for analyzing AI. So just to summarize this difference, maybe imagine a little table in your mind contrasting these two. For poiesis, the essence is technocraft, art, skill. The mode is a letting come to presence, a gentle bringing forth. The relationship to nature is cooperative, harmonious. The human role is an artisan, a cultivator, one of four co-responsible ways of owing. And the result? A work that stands in itself with its own presence, like a temple or a poem. Now, for herausfordern, the essence is Gestell, or Enframing, which we'll get to. The mode is a setting upon, demanding, extracting, securing, optimizing. The relationship: antagonistic, controlling, exploitative. The human role becomes an orderer, a manager, the commander of resources, and the result is a resource held in the standing reserve, or Bestand, valued only for its availability, its calculability, its disposability. This really helps highlight why a windmill is so different from a dam and why modern tech is profoundly different from ancient craft.
Wow. Yeah, that distinction between the windmill and the dam, the gentle letting appear versus the aggressive challenging forth, that truly hammers home how fundamentally different modern technology is. So understanding these two modes, poiesis and herausfordern, is absolutely crucial for grasping how AI is far, far more than just a tool. It's about how it fundamentally interacts with and reveals the world to us, and perhaps how it forces the world to present itself to us in a certain way.
AI is the ultimate manifestation of Gestell and Bestand.
Okay, so how do these concepts, especially herausfordern and the challenging forth, apply specifically to artificial intelligence? You mentioned Gestell earlier. What exactly is that, and how does AI manifest it? How does it become the ultimate example of this aggressive, challenging forth?
Right, here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even a bit scary. Because AI isn't just another modern technology. You could argue it's the pinnacle of it. Heidegger names the essence of modern technology Gestell. It's often translated as enframing. But Gestell is not a physical frame or a piece of equipment. It is the totalizing worldview or technological understanding of being that underlies and shapes our contemporary age. It's the lens through which we now perceive and engage with reality. It, as he says, challenges him, man, forth to reveal the real in the mode of ordering as standing reserve. So this isn't about specific machines. It's about a pervasive mindset that dictates how everything appears to us, how everything can appear. It's a mindset that prioritizes efficiency, control, and manipulation above absolutely everything else. A mindset where calculative thinking, weighing, measuring, optimizing becomes the only legitimate, maybe even the only possible form of thought. We just reduce everything to what can be quantified, managed, and optimized. And I would argue strongly that artificial intelligence is the quintessential and perhaps ultimate manifestation of Gestell. It embodies this worldview in its very core logic. Why? Because AI is a system built entirely upon the logic of ordering
calculating, optimizing, and controlling. That's what it does. Its very existence is predicated on the world's first being revealed as data, as something quantifiable, classifiable, and predictable. Before an AI can operate on the world must be enframed for it first. Think of the entire internet, every scrap of information, every human interaction being captured, digitized, processed. AI, therefore, isn't merely a product of the Gestell, it's the operational logic of the Gestell made manifest. It's an engine that drives the enframing process towards its ultimate conclusion, automating the very transformation of reality into calculable units.
Okay, so if Gestell is this totalizing worldview, this enframing, what happens to everything within that world? What's the consequence of this enframing process, especially when AI is driving it?
Well, the necessary consequence of Gestell is that everything it touches is reduced to Bestand. That's the term he uses, Bestand, or standing reserve. When the world is enframed through this calculative lens, every entity within it, rivers, forests, animals, people, language, even abstract concepts like our emotions, gets transformed into a stock of interchangeable, disposable, and perpetually available resources ready to be ordered and consumed. Bestand signifies essentially continuous readiness, constant availability and accessibility, and sustained disposability. Everything is on call, ready to be used, optimized, replaced. In this technological age, Heidegger argues there are no longer any objects in the traditional sense, things with their own inherent being. There are only assets, production materials, and consumer goods. A tree is not a living being with its own history and integrity, but timber, or maybe carbon credits. A river isn't a flow of life, but hydroelectric potential, megawatt hours. They become mere elements in a larger system of extraction and optimization. And crucially, this process doesn't stop at nature. It does not spare humanity. The traditional subject-object distinction, where humans are the masters looking at objects, it dissolves. The human being is also claimed as standing reserve. We become human resources. Our skills, our time, even our psychological profiles become assets to be managed, optimized, and deployed. Our very selves are converted into quantifiable data points for someone else's system. And AI operates precisely by this logic. The data AI models are trained on and processed, that's reality itself, converted into a standing reserve of information, just ready for algorithmic manipulation.
That's a profound, almost chilling idea, this transformation of everything into Bestand. Can we see this philosophical concept playing out in real-world AI applications today? Can you give us some concrete contemporary examples?
Oh, absolutely. This transformation, it's not an abstract philosophical concept. It is an active process, observable across every domain where AI is deployed. And AI, in a way, represents a new, more potent form of Gestell because it automates the very process of enframing. Think about it. A hydroelectric dam physically enframes a single river, right? But an AI system, it's a meta-enframing machine. Its function is to take any domain that has already been rendered into data, Bestand, and subject it to a further, purely computational challenging forth. For what purpose? Optimization, prediction, control. And this creates a dangerous recursive loop. As more of the world is digitized to feed AI, the AI becomes more powerful, which enables it to enframe ever more of the world more efficiently, creating this totalizing system that becomes increasingly difficult to even stand outside of. Let's look at nature and the environment. AI systems used in environmental science, agriculture, resource management, they perfectly exemplify this challenging force of nature. In agriculture, AI gives us data-driven insights and decision-making tools to optimize crop management, reduce waste, and increase yields. Sounds good, right? Efficient use of land and resources. AI is also used to build sophisticated climate models, simulate the impact of storms, predict deforestation patterns. But in these applications, nature is revealed not as a complex living system with its own integrity, but as a vast data set to be analyzed and a system to be optimized. So, the forest is reduced to a collection of satellite pixels for fire risk analysis. The soil becomes a set of variables for precision fertilization, just inputs for an algorithm. The global climate becomes a massive simulation to be run and rerun, its inherent wildness and unpredictability domesticated into probabilities. This is Gestell operating on a planetary scale, transforming the very essence of nature into a managed resource.
That's a really stark image. Yeah, it turns even conservation into just another problem of resource management. Okay, so how does this enframing impact us directly as human beings and within our society?
Well, AI systems increasingly enframe human beings and our social relations as standing reserve. Let's take labor. AI-powered human resources systems, they screen resumes, reducing candidates to a collection of keywords and quantifiable metrics. What gets lost? Often the unquantifiable qualities like passion, creativity, real collaborative spirit. Candidates just become profiles, data points to be sorted algorithmically. Or look at algorithmic management in the gig economy. It treats workers as disposable nodes in a logistics network. Their routes and schedules optimized for corporate profit rather than human well-being. A driver isn't really a person navigating complex traffic in life, but a disposable unit moving goods from A to B. And research shows that AI tools can boost productivity by standardizing performance, making less experienced workers perform more like experienced ones. Sounds efficient, but it also increases their interchangeability and reinforces their status as replaceable resources. Their unique skills, their human experiences get flattened into performance metrics. Then there's consumption. Think about recommendation engines, Netflix, Amazon, Spotify. They convert personal tastes, viewing habits, and even our emotional responses into data points. This data is then used to predict and drive future consumption, creating this endless feedback loop of optimized engagement. As one analysis put it, human experience itself becomes the raw material to be captured, packaged, and sold for profit. It's not just about enjoying a film anymore. It's about generating data that can then be repackaged to generate more profit. Your genuine emotional response to a piece of music. That becomes just another data point for the next recommendation. And our social life isn't immune either. Far from it. Social media algorithms frame human connection as engagement metrics. The value of a post, or even a relationship expressed online, gets measured by its capacity to be optimized for virality, or for attracting user attention for clicks, likes, shares. Our personal lives, our thoughts, our relationships are converted into a standing reserve of content for the platform's benefit. The authenticity of human interaction risks being replaced by its performative value within this data economy.
Wow. Yeah, that's truly unsettling when you put it like that. Thinking about how subtly our human interactions are being reframed into the standing reserve, it makes you wonder, is any part of our lives not touched by this? But how does this apply to something as seeming, I don't know, inherently human and maybe irreducible as language, knowledge, and culture?
This is maybe the most profound enframing of all. The reduction of human language and culture to a standing reserve through things like large language models, LLMs. LLMs, as you know, are trained on vast corpora of text and images, effectively the entire recorded cultural and linguistic output of humanity. Every book ever written, every conversation scraped from the web, every image uploaded, it's all ingested. Critically, these models operate not by understanding, but by identifying and reproducing statistical patterns and probabilities within this enormous data set. They predict the next word or the next pixel based on billions of examples they've seen. So from a Heideggerian perspective, an LLM does not engage with language as a lived, meaningful phenomenon rooted in a world of concern. It doesn't have a lived experience that gives genuine meaning to its words. Instead, it treats language as a disembodied, calculable resource, a vast Bestand of tokens to be challenged forth and reordered according to mathematical principles. It's like draining the entire river of language just to measure its volume and calculate flow rates, completely losing the life, the context, the nuance. The meaning an LLM produces is therefore merely a statistical artifact, a plausible arrangement of symbols, not a genuine revealing of truth that comes from a being in the world. It is, as some have quite sharply put it, the logic of the hydroelectric dam applied to the river of human expression. It flattens the rich, nuanced, context-dependent nature of human communication into a set of probabilities, stripping it of its inherent meaning and turning it into yet another resource for algorithmic manipulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I need a moment just to absorb the profound implications of this pervasive enframing. It's truly a radical way of looking at the technology we interact with every single day, seeing it not as a helper, but as this transformative force shaping reality itself.
The dangers and the saving power in an AI-inframed world.
So if AI is this ultimate manifestation of Gestell, relentlessly reducing everything to Bestand, what's the ultimate consequence? What's the end game of this AI-driven enframing? According to Heidegger, what's the supreme danger for us?
Well, Heidegger's ultimate concern, it's not really the dystopian scenarios of job loss or physical destruction, things like robot uprisings or mass unemployment. While those are serious issues, they often become the exclusive focus of mainstream AI debates. His concern is something far more subtle and profound. The supreme danger of Gestell is that the technological mode of revealing becomes the only mode of revealing. It's the heart of it. The threat is that it could be denied to him man to enter into a more original revealing. We might lose the ability to see the world in any other way. When enframing holds absolute sway, we risk forgetting that the world could ever appear to us as anything other than a collection of resources to be optimized. We risk losing the very capacity to ask the question of being, the fundamental philosophical question of what it means for something to be, beyond its mere utility or its quantifiable aspects. This leads to a loss of meaningful connection with the world, and a kind of flattening of reality where all that is mysterious, unquantifiable, poetic, or sacred is concealed or dismissed as irrelevant, simply because it doesn't fit the calculative framework. The profound danger, then, of an AI-driven world is that its hyper-efficient calculative logic becomes our own. We start to internalize it. We begin to see ourselves and others as data points to be managed, to value only what is measurable and optimizable, and to forget the dimensions of existence that elude calculation. The seeming indifference of the algorithm to genuine meaning, to context, to soul, that risks becoming our own indifference. It erodes our capacity for deeper engagement, for empathy, for truly meaningful connection with the world and with each other.
That's a powerful diagnosis. Yeah, it puts so many of our current anxieties about AI into a completely new philosophical light. How does this reframing impact the current debates we're having on AI ethics and governance? Because those conversations are happening right now very intensely, but they often seem to miss this deeper ontological point.
Absolutely. This Heideggerian reframing, it demands a radical reconsideration of the current discourse on AI ethics and governance. Because most current debates operate entirely within the instrumental framework, the tool framework we discussed. And by doing so, they fail to address the fundamental issue, the issue of Gestell itself. The focus right now is almost entirely on mitigating the risks of a flawed tool. We talk about guardrails, bias detection, fairness metrics, transparency. Take, for example, discussions about AI bias. We seek to make systems fairer by adjusting data or tweaking algorithms to achieve more equitable statistical results. That's important work, but it does not question the underlying act of enframing itself, the reduction of human candidates or medical patients or criminal defendants to a standing reserve of data in the first place. The problem isn't just how the tool is used badly, but what the tool is and what it does to reality even when used correctly. Policies are often designed with a risk-based approach, balancing economic benefits against societal harms. But if you think about it, that itself is still a form of calculative thinking, just weighing quantifiable pros and cons within the already established enframing worldview. The Heideggerian shift changes the question entirely. Instead of asking, how can we build ethical AI tools, it asks, what kind of world is being revealed when AI becomes the dominant way of encountering reality? This moves the whole conversation beyond use case ethics to an ethics of world disclosure. The central question is no longer simply, what should we do with AI, but the far more profound question, what is AI doing with us? It challenges us to reflect on the very nature of existence in this age of AI.
Wow. Okay, given such a, well, frankly, a dire diagnosis, is there any hope within this framework? Is there a saving power, as Heidegger calls it, lurking somewhere amidst this deep danger?
Heidegger, maybe surprisingly, offers a kind of paradoxical hope. He quotes the poet Holzelin, where danger is, grows the saving power also. But this saving power, it's not a technological fix or a new policy framework. We can't engineer our way out of it with more tech. Instead, it is a fundamental change in our orientation toward technology. It lies in our ability to recognize Gestell for what it is, a mode of revealing, a claim upon us that we must witness and reflect upon, but not blindly obey. It's about seeing the frame itself rather than just looking passively through it. And this requires a different kind of thinking, not the calculative thinking, which is the logic of Gestell itself, concerned only with means and ends, efficiency, optimization. Rather, it requires meditative thinking, what he calls Gelassenheit. This is often translated as releasement or letting be. It's a patient, open waiting that allows things to reveal themselves in their own essence, rather than forcing them into our predetermined calculative categories. Now, what's truly striking here and deeply paradoxical is that AI, by being the most extreme and totalizing form of Gestell, might be the very thing that makes the danger so undeniable that it shocks us into this meditative awareness. Its uncanny ability to mimic human intelligence and creativity forces a confrontation with our own nature, compelling us perhaps to ask the deeper questions we have forgotten. So the saving power, therefore, grows precisely from the danger, as the extremity of the enframing makes the enframing itself visible for the first time. It's in the very extremity, the sheer power and pervasiveness of AI, that we might finally see clearly what's happening to our understanding of reality. And that seeing might be the beginning of our capacity to respond differently.
Okay, so if we can recognize this in framing through meditative thinking, through Gelassenheit, What's the alternative? How do we live in a world increasingly dominated by Gestell? How do we move beyond it, or at least maintain a different kind of relationship with it?
Heidegger's proposed alternative to the world of Gestell is a kind of return to poiesis, particularly through art and poetry, seeing them as a non-instrumental way of being in the world. Art, in its truest sense, lets beings be in their own presence. It doesn't challenge them forth as resources. He famously contrasted Hölderlin's poetic description of the Rhine River, which allowed the river to reveal itself in its natural beauty and meaning, with the river's reduction to a mere power source by a hydroelectric dam. And this leads to his idea of poetic dwelling, a way of living not based on mastery and control, but on a thoughtful measuring of our place within the whole of existence, a kind of deep attunement to being. Now here's where we hit the profound and maybe dangerous paradox of generative AI today. On one hand, it's the absolute pinnacle of calculative, challenging forth logic. It's pure Herausforderung, built entirely on massive data sets and statistical prediction. But on the other hand, its outputs appear poetic and creative. They enter the very domain, art, poetry, music, that Heidegger held up as the antidote to technology. We see AI generating art, music, poetry, stories that can sometimes be, frankly, indistinguishable from human creations. And this creates what might be the ultimate danger, the enframing of the saving power itself. Because if you look closely, AI-generated art is not true poiesis. It is the result of a calculative process performed on the standing reserve of existing human culture. It's mined from everything we've already created. It's a highly sophisticated mimesis, imitation, rather than a genuine poiesis, creative bringing forth, because it is not rooted in a lived world of meaning and concern. An LLM doesn't have a soul, doesn't have a history, doesn't have a body, or a world from which to bring forth genuine original meaning. It remixes and recombines based on patterns. So if we mistake AI-simulated poiesis for the real thing, we risk allowing the logic of Gestell to colonize the very space that was meant to be our refuge from it. We might lose our ability to discern authentic creation from mere algorithmic mimicry, further flattening our world. So poetic dwelling with AI in this context is not a Luddite rejection of technology. Heidegger wasn't saying abandon tech. It is more a state of releasement, Gelassenheit, where we can use AI systems without letting their enframing logic define our entire existence. It means consciously carving out, protecting, and valuing spaces for non-calculative, meditative, and genuinely poetic ways of being, even as we are surrounded by the digital Gestell. It's about maintaining a critical distance, an awareness of how this technology is shaping us, and choosing differently where we can. The true saving power, then, is not found in AI's outputs, however impressive they seem, but in the human act of questioning. Questioning the difference between an AI-generated poem and a human one. That very act forces us to reflect on the nature of meaning, experience, and being itself. That's where the hope lies. Outro.
So, to try and recap our whole AI history of Western philosophy exploration today, the pervasive framing of AI as just a neutral tool. It's dangerously inadequate and misleading. Through Heidegger's lens, we've seen AI not as a mere instrument, but perhaps as the most potent manifestation of Gestell, this totalizing mode of revealing that tends to reduce everything, nature, humanity, culture, to a quantifiable standing reserve, or Bestand.
Yeah, and the profound implication here is that the primary challenge of AI is not technical or regulatory in the conventional sense. It is ontological. It's about being itself. The core debate isn't really between good and bad uses of a tool, but it's between a world completely dominated by the logic of calculative enframing and the possibility of preserving other, more original ways of revealing truth. It really raises that important question. Are we becoming indifferent to the deeper meaning of things? The supreme danger is indeed becoming so enmeshed in the digital Gestell that we forget any other way of being is possible, potentially losing that fundamental connection to the world and perhaps even our own humanity.
Yet, as you said, within this profound danger, there is that possibility of the saving power. AI's very extremity makes the nature of the technological worldview starkly visible, potentially forcing a critical confrontation with how we understand reality and our place within it.
Exactly. And the path forward then is not to master AI, for the will to mastery is itself a symptom of the problem, part of Gestell. Nor is it likely feasible or desirable to reject it outright and retreat from technology completely. Rather, it's about cultivating a free relationship to it, a relationship of Gelassenheit or releasement. Our task, maybe, is to learn to use these incredibly powerful systems without being used by their underlying logic, to engage in a constant meditative questioning that keeps open the space for a poetic dwelling in the world, where meaning can still thrive beyond mere calculation. Ultimately, the future of our relationship with AI depends not so much on the answers we can program, but perhaps on the depth and the persistence of the questions we are willing to ask, questions about what it truly means to be human in an increasingly technological age.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration within AI history of Western philosophy. We really encourage you to reflect on these sometimes challenging ideas as you navigate your own relationship with technology in your daily lives. Until next time.